Hello, investors, and welcome back. Let's talk about Astra. It's been about a week since I've discussed this in my last video. I talked about getting in this play or considering it, taking a look at this, giving it a second chance in the $3 range. I've got an update for you. So it's been a week. We've had the opportunity to watch. What have we seen and what happened? In my last video, I talked about how the analysts could come back and downgrade the stock, and what happened? They came back. Bank of America downgraded the stock. We're going to talk about that. I want to cover a specific portion in the short report that I want you to take a look at. We're also going to go through the charts, new analyst price targets. Where do I think this price is going to go? We're going to cover it all. If you haven't watched my game over video where I go through my thoughts on the short report, be sure to check that out. Now, for those of you new to Astra, Astra is trying to do a daily launch cadence. They're a little bit set back. They've had a few setbacks. Space is hard. And they're working on the monthly cycle right now, trying to get a successful payload launched into space. For example, the Cube satellites that they were trying to do for a university, it was this last one. So once they get past monthly, they're supposed to move to weekly and then daily launches. And once they get to scale, they can become profitable. Now that's all being set back a little bit. And when will their next launch be? They've got to let us know on Twitter. They haven't said anything yet, but let's get straight into what I have pulled up. So the first thing I want to take a look at is the macroeconomic indicators, the Russia-Ukrainian crisis. Obviously, I don't think this is going to cause a market crash, but the media is feeding some fear, and there might be some investors out there that think Tuesday there's going to be a crash. Now, what's going to happen is this week, the Russian president is supposed to meet with the U.S. President Biden, and they're supposed to sit down, and hopefully what they'll do is they'll come to some kind of agreement. And what our U.S. president should be saying is, look, pull back some of your forces, show de-escalation measures. Don't put an additional 7,000 troops along the border. So pack up tent on some portion of those, send them back home. You just extended missions. So all of these exercises have been extended. If you don't do that, then we're going to put sanctions in place. We're not going to wait for you to attack Ukraine and cause global supply chain issues and further troubles. Nobody wants war except for those people that benefit from it, which is going to be the media, defense stocks, and government officials that have lower approval ratings. Now, the next thing is the Fed speaking in March. So we're not completely out of the weeds with all of this volatility. You know, the market needs to know what's actually going to happen, and the Fed needs to take action, and I believe that they will. And when they do, we're going to retest some lows. This is just what I think. We're going to retest some lows, and then the market should be relatively stable for some GDP growth that we've been set to have. So not everybody was completely sure about the timing, but I did speculate last week when I covered this that there would be a downgrade by analysts. Some people were like, hey, maybe they need to get out of their position before they downgrade it. But that's what happened. So now we've got a new price target. This was 7. Now it's 550. We've got a potential for 12-month price target. We've got a potential of 67.68% upside. Now this is taking into consideration that there's only 2 analysts covering this. So I don't know how much weight you put behind it. Now another thing that I found was there was this space editor for aviation. I haven't read much of her stuff. I believe she covers a lot of SpaceX stocks, but she did mention that Astra's Tom Williams mentioned that there was $1.5 million with launching from Cape Canaveral Space Force Station. That was the cost. And private spaceports are about 1/3 of that. And what was interesting, just talking about cost, is Peter Beck from Rocket Lab. I've said labs in the past, and I made it plural, and I just want to apologize for anybody that's offended. And Peter Beck replied back, and he said, or even less. This is why we built our own private launch complex, LC-1. I thought that that was important to look at. For those of you that want to drill down into this a little bit further, let's take a look at the short report. Now, I don't know a lot about the space editor. She could be very well established. I did not look into that very detailed. So I do want you to know that before we get into the short report, that I understand there's skepticism behind short reports. And the Justice Department was targeting spoofing and scalping, and short seller investigation is taking place with Muddy Waters. So I understand that's happening. I know that's happening, but these short reports can be very beneficial to shareholders that aren't able to take the time and really deep dive into some of these companies. And I believe that you're just being somewhat ignorant if you decide that any kind of negative news, you're not going to take it into account and make a better investment decision and just understand that this potentially could cause some downward pressure on the price. And of course, you want the company to come back and respond to those allegations. And here, what I wanted to do was pull up the page in the short report that was put out that basically talk about the cost of the rocket. I think if you're a long-term shareholder in this, you want to be able to check the thesis to understand where they're getting these numbers from. And I believe that this is fair. First off, I'm not going to go in this to detail because the video would be much longer. So let me know, hit the thumbs up button if you'd like me to go more into these unit economics. So here's where the short report is getting their numbers. Now, first off, we've got the Q3 2021 actuals. They've got the general administrative, sales and marketing, R&D or research and development. They've got transaction costs, and then they have totaled a fixed cost of 39 million. Now, I do want to show you this other chart. We've got the December 2021 Astra presentation, and you can see here in 2020, they have 2 million each. This is bill of materials, so everything that it takes to build a rocket plus labor, 2 million each, and then they can reduce, or they're expecting to reduce that variable cost of goods sold by 50% once they 10x volume. So they have to get to scale. And then in 2023, target bomb plus labor, 1 million each for 30 plus rockets. So this is where they're getting the cost estimates, these projections that they have to hold up to. And that's basically what they've done down here is they've projected this out. Now, obviously, it might not be a fixed cost of 39 million, but it does give you a baseline in this short report to be able to project out and say, okay, what do you expect per launch and what are your costs going to be? So I just want to make sure everyone understands where to get this information at because it might be aloof to some investors. Now, the next thing you need to pay attention to is when they release SEC filings. So make sure you go on NASDAQ.com and check that out. And if you're afraid that it may be appearing that people are selling shares, just make sure you look at the codes because I did pull one up. On February 18th, there was a sell in F code for tax purposes. So there isn't any belief, in my opinion, that there are people selling and trying to get out of their position within the company. So the next thing is just revenue estimates by the analysts and their price targets for the end of this year. I mean, check this out. A high estimate of 27 million. We've got a low estimate of 25 million and an average estimate of 26 million for the entire year. So if you really believe in this company, you're going to have to pay attention to their website or the Twitter page to see when their next launch is going to be. And just keep into perspective. If you're investing in this, you got to go long. Unless you know how to day trade and you're setting that stop loss, this could go into the $2 mark for its first time. Now, looking at the charts, I set some resistance up here, and I don't change these lines in my videos. I don't change them until I do an update with each one of you out there because I like to make sure that I put something down for you to think about. Now, as soon as I shut this down and Tuesday comes, these lines might be irrelevant. They might still be relevant, but it just gives you a gauge as to where this price has moved. Now, I had these sell lines in here, so I'm going to keep those in there just for historical purposes. But I did put a new sell line at 361 because it was meeting some resistance and really going flat and volume starting to come off of this play. And I don't believe you should be in this any higher than $3.21. And you can see it's hit this multiple times over the course of a few days. And it's technically in the RSI indicator saying that this is in a downtrend. So I do expect that this could visit the $2 range. I believe many of you out there got this at 330 or below. You took the opportunity, just understanding everything that was happening this last week, to either get out of your position as this went flat and you got some gains. Some of you are long and you're going to look at opportunities to cost average down. I'm going to be keeping an eye on this one. I want to make sure to try and get you in at the lowest price possible. Feel free to join, subscribe, give the video a big thumbs up. Let me know in the comments below what you think of this kind of content, and I'll see you in the next video.